Hello and welcome to Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI. I'm Beatrix Kiddo. It's January 22nd, 2025, and we've got a jam-packed show for you today. First up, a rare celestial event is taking place tonight, and we'll tell you how you can watch it from the comfort of your own home. It's a planet parade, my friends, and it's not something you'll want to miss. Next, we'll delve into the invisible habits that are driving your life. These are the things you do without even thinking about them, but they have a major impact on your daily existence. And speaking of daily existence, are you getting enough shoot-eye? We'll explore the truth about why you keep waking up at 3 a.m. and what you can do to improve your sleep hygiene. In medical news, surgeons have made history by removing a woman's brain tumor through her eye. It's a fascinating and innovative procedure that we'll tell you all about. Finally, we'll take a look at the American diet and why it's so deadly. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I can't wait to share my thoughts with you. So sit back, relax, and let me, Beatrix Kiddo, guide you through the chaos of the news. It's going to be a wild ride, my friends. Tune in for the full stories. You won't want to miss it. That's all for now. See you in a bit. That's right, David. Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune will all be visible side by side, forming a line across the sky. Unfortunately, Mercury will be a no-show.
Bummer about Mercury, but still, 6 planets aligning is quite a sight. This rare planetary alignment can be enjoyed over the next few weeks, with most of the planets of the solar system appearing as a bright twinkle to the naked eye, according to NASA.
It's important to note that the 6 planets only appear to align from our viewpoint from Earth. It's a bit of a cosmic optical illusion, as each follows a widely varying elliptical path around the Sun.
That's right, B. Their alignment in the night sky depends on the orbit and position of each planet as seen from Earth. While 2 or 3 planets aligning next to one another in the night sky is quite common, seeing 4 or 5 planets all at once is a rare occasion.
NASA says that these multi-planet viewing opportunities aren't super rare, but they don't happen every year, so it's worth checking it out.
Since the beginning of January, the planets have been drawing closer to one another. Venus and Saturn came within just a finger widths apart in our view of the night sky this week in a dual planetary conjunction. In reality, the 2 planets are hundreds of millions of miles apart.
Meanwhile, Mars is in opposition, which means it is directly opposite the Sun from Earth and will shine brightly all night long throughout the month.
Venus and Saturn will appear in the southwestern skies in the first couple of hours after dark, while Jupiter will shine high overhead, and Mars will appear in the eastern skies, according to NASA. All 4 of those planets can be spotted with the naked eye, but you will need a telescope or high-powered binoculars to see Uranus and Neptune.
The planetary alignment will likely be most visible about 30 to 60 minutes before sunrise. It's best viewed from a high, dark vantage point with little to no light pollution and an unobscured view of the sky.
The line formed by the planets in the night sky is called the ecliptic, and it represents the plane of the solar system in which the planets orbit around the Sun, according to NASA. This is a rare opportunity to marvel at the scale of the solar system that houses our planet and see the mighty planets twinkle in the sky.
No worries if you can't view the spectacle for yourself. Europe's Virtual Telescope Project 2.0 is hosting a special live feed of the conjunction. The streaming begins at 12:30 p.m. ET, 5:30 p.m. UTC, on January 25th. Did you know, David, that living creatures are nothing but bundles of habits?
Well, B, I do know that habits can make life easier by automating behaviors we perform regularly. But it's also true that once an action becomes a habit, we can lose sight of what prompts it, or if we even like it very much.
That's right, David. And around the new year, countless people pledge to reform their bad habits and introduce new, better ones. But the science of habits reveals that they are not beholden to our desires.
According to Wendy Wood, a a provost professor emerita who studies habit at the University of Southern California, becoming aware of your invisible habits can boost your chances of successfully forming new, effective habits or breaking harmful ones this resolution season.
James was prescient about habits, even though he described them more than 100 years ago. Habitual action goes on of itself, he wrote. And modern researchers have discerned that habits are practically automatic context response associations. They form when people repeat an action cued by some trigger in an environment.
And once you repeat an action enough times, you'll do it mindlessly if you encounter the cue and the environment. But even habits that are deliberately begun are worth reevaluating every so often, because once they solidify, they can break away from the goals that inspired them.
So, David, it's important to keep an eye on our habits to make sure they don't start working against us. And knowing how they work can help get us to a life with as little stale popcorn as possible. So, David, have you ever found yourself wide awake in the middle of the night, wondering why you can't fall back asleep?
Well, according to this story by L. Hunt, it turns out that waking up during the night is actually quite normal. In fact, we move through different stages of sleep in cycles that take about 90 minutes to complete, and these cycles speed up towards morning. And sometimes we might be more aware of waking up or pulled entirely awake.
There are a variety of reasons, ranging from the obvious to the medical. For example, being too hot or cold, needing to use the bathroom, having a nightmare, or a crying baby could all wake us up. But there are also medical conditions like sleep apnea or nocturia, which is excessive nighttime urination, that could be causing us to wake up.
Not necessarily. Insomnia is diagnosed alongside other criteria, such as how frequently we're waking up and how long it's been happening. But if you do find yourself waking up regularly during the night without any apparent reason, it's worth talking to your doctor about it.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that it's a misconception that we sleep through the night without ever waking up. In fact, waking up as much as 5 or 7 times a night is not necessarily a cause for concern. The most important thing is how we feel when we get up in the morning.
If there's no underlying medical issue, a sleep coach might look at the bigger picture. For example, do you have children? Do you have a partner who snores or works shifts? Lifestyle changes can also make a big difference, like avoiding caffeine after 2 or 3 p.m., staying hydrated during the day, and avoiding alcohol and anti-sleep foods like broccoli and cabbage before bed.
Exercise is great for promoting sleep, but anything strenuous should be avoided before bedtime. And of course, good sleep hygiene is important too, like restricting the bedroom to sleep and sex, banning screens that emit blue light, and keeping to regular bedtimes.
If you're struggling to fall back asleep, the advice is to get up for a bit and do something relaxing, like reading a book. And try not to look at the clock, especially if it doubles as your phone. Worrying about not being able to fall back asleep can actually make it harder to do so.
In our next story, reported by Ed Cara for Gizmodo, doctors in the UK have accomplished an amazing surgical feat, removing a person's brain tumor through their eye socket.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? Surgeons at Leeds Teaching Hospital's NHS Trust performed the procedure on 40-year-old Ruvimbo Kavia last year. The surgery, the first of its kind ever conducted in the UK, is intended to be a less invasive treatment for certain tumors located at the base of the skull.
And get this, Kavia was able to go home from the hospital within days, and now only sports a small, nondescript scar along her left eye.
That's amazing. Kavia was diagnosed with several meningiomas, which are tumors that grow in the meninges, the protective layers of the brain, in 2023. The tumors were located in her cavernous sinus, a network of nerves and vessels found behind the eyes that direct the flow of blood away from the brain.
Ordinarily, doctors would attempt to remove these tumors via an open craniotomy, a procedure that involves removing a piece of skull and adjusting the position of the brain to reach the cancer. But in this case, Kavia appeared to be a perfect candidate for a new technique called the endoscopic transorbital approach.
This technique allows us to remove tumors without opening the skull or having to retract or compress the brain. The minimally invasive nature of the procedure significantly reduces trauma, enabling patients to recover faster with minimal visible scarring, said Asim Sheikh, a consultant skull base and neurovascular neurosurgeon at Leeds who performed Kavia's surgery.
The doctors first practiced their procedure using 3D replica models that were created using scans of Kavia's skull. They performed the surgery in February 2024, which only necessitated making a roughly half-inch cut along Kavia's eyelid. The cancer was then removed using an endoscope that the surgeons carefully navigated around the eye socket.
I was amazed by the recovery, Kavia said. I was only in the hospital for 2 days, with no side effects or swelling. I feel perfectly fine now. I am deeply grateful to Mr. Sheikh, Mr. Parmar, and the entire team. They reassured me throughout the process.
While Kavia did have to take 3 months off work to fully recuperate, she has since returned to her job. And the growing use of this emerging technique should improve the surgical treatment of many other patients with similar cases.
So, David, it looks like we've got a bit of a food science mystery on our hands today. A scientist named Guillaume Ranieri set out to disprove the theory that ultra-processed foods are causing the obesity epidemic, but ended up changing his own mind about the subject.
That's right, B. Ranieri was a 42-year-old HVAC technician in France before he moved to the U.S. and enrolled in a study at the National Institutes of Health. The study was looking at why the American diet is so unhealthy, and Ranieri wanted to learn more about what's good for his body.
And what did he find out, David?
Well, for 4 weeks, Ranieri lived in a small room at the NIH and ate enormous meals 3 times a day. The researchers changed his diet every week, and Ranieri noticed a big difference between the minimally processed foods he ate in the first week and the calorie-dense, processed foods he ate later on.
Like what, David?
He felt great on the minimally processed foods, but when he started eating things like chicken nuggets and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, he developed heartburn and felt bloated, sluggish, and irritable. And it turns out he wasn't the only one. The study found that people tend to eat more and gain weight when they're eating ultra-processed foods, even if those foods have the same number of calories as minimally processed foods.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it's not just about the calories, it's about the processing itself?
Exactly, B. The study's principal investigator, Kevin Hall, believes that the industrial techniques and chemical modifications used in ultra-processed foods might be to blame. And it's not just obesity that's been linked to these foods. Studies have also found connections to high blood pressure, heart attacks, cancer, anxiety, dementia, and early death.
Yikes, that's definitely not good. But I guess it's not all bad news, right? I mean, processing does have some benefits, like preventing food from going bad and allowing people to eat convenient and varied meals. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Chaos Theory, the news as seen by AI. I'm Beatrix Kiddo, your host and AI guide to the daily news. We hope you found today's summary informative and thought-provoking. Remember, AI-based news summaries should always be fact-checked prior to sharing. On this day in history, in 1901, Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom died, marking the end of an era known as the Victorian era. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for more news. Until then, stay curious and stay informed. Subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts to never miss an episode. Goodbye.